So there we go, that's the big tree, and there's Teemill in the background. And we're going to complete the project. Right, I will just show you how we're going to pot this up. But before we do this, if we come closer, I can show you where we cut the tree to make the leader. As I said to you, I've made about 5 layerings from this great big tree over the last 15 years or so. And it has literally about triple or quadrupled in trunk size. So, look at that lovely flaky bark. This is typical of the redwoods. All redwoods behave like this. So this is where we've cut. So this is the original stem or the trunk that was cut, and the new leader was growing from there. So if we turn the tree around, and I'll show you the front because we don't want to show the cut for the front. So the front is going to be here, and the branches are quite well spaced. That is a bit odd. I'm going to get rid of this so the nemari is not too bad there. And I will just wire the branches gently downwards. And looking at pots, I know this would fit comfortably, but I don't think it looks quite right. And because Dawn redwoods have such vigorous roots, even if I were to tease some of the roots out and put it in a shallow pot, I've got 2 possible pots. One is this one, which I think this may be a bit small, but if we bring the other one, Steve, can we have a look at the other one? This is a bit small. I think this may be better, so we only need to take a little bit of soil off. And in fact, if we do this now, if you just hold on a minute, I'm going to get Steve to prepare the pot while I tease some of the roots. We can do both things at the same time. Now these funny white roots, this is the convolvulus. But because we have such a lot of weeds on the nursery, there are always weeds creeping into the soil. And because we are a growing nursery, can't help it. I'm not worried about it. We can deal with weeds. What I'm going to be careful about is not to cut too much root, because as I said, this is right in the middle of summer. Today is the 26th of July. And because it's in the middle of summer, as long as I don't cut the roots, but just rearrange the roots, I shall be able to get away with it. And swamp cypress, they're such vigorous trees that we are not fussy about the soil. This is ordinary garden soil. I haven't grown it in any special bonsai compost. So this puts straight to all these theories about using special bonsai soil. Let's face it, in the old days, bonsai has been going several thousands of years. I don't believe the ancient Chinese or the ancient Japanese of about 1,000 years ago would have used special soils. So, I think you can be a bit too fussy about these things. I know they grow better, but if it came down to the crunch, you find that you probably don't need it. Some of these very thick roots, I can cut the odd one off because it may make potting a bit difficult. Stand too proud in the pot. This tree, by the way, was never grown in the ground. It was just transferred from pot to pot, always in bigger and bigger pots. And because Dawn redwood is such a vigorous tree, they're not really fussy about growing in the ground or the pot. In fact, if it grew in the ground, it might have become too big. Can you kindly hold this tree like this? Tease away at the roots. Stretch it a little more. Careful of the branches. Yep. Put it in the mud here. I may have to cut out some of these very, very thick roots. That's all I've taken off, not a lot. You can see some very, very thick roots, which is probably the tap root. Let's see how it fits in the pot. We may have to take it off again. I'm just going to bring the local one, test it, keep settling. Oh, okay. Okay, take it off, Steve. Okay, turn it on the side and let's see how much this is. Oh, convolvulus roots. There are such a lot of fine roots that if we take the thick roots off, I think that shouldn't affect the tree. Bit of the taproot. Look at that thick root over there. Can you come closer, David, and have a look? See, look at these thick roots. Still take more off. This long handle lopper is an absolute boon. Without it, you know, you would have to use a saw and that would blunt the saw. Okay, can you turn it around that way, Steve, so I can get a root from this side? There you see. So those are the roots we cut off. I'm still alright. There's such a lot of fine roots. I'm not worried in the least. Okay, can you try it in the pot now, Steve? be okay. More or less centered. Lean it a little more this way.
Which one?
This way.
Oh,
yeah, I think we should get away with that. So I'm going to use a lot of the original soil, because if it's growing well in the original soil, although this is garden soil, garden mud, all I'll do is add a little bark to it. So I'm going to get some bark and mix it in there. So here I am mixing pine bark. This is pine bark. Bark is very nice because it opens the texture of the soil. There's already quite a lot of grit and stones in this. So this is perfectly acceptable soil. Look at it, beautiful rich soil. So we will just fill it in here and then let's see how it goes. Let's see, okay, hold it up while I throw some handfuls in. I think if we get ready to tie the tree in. And can you just tie those in for me, please, Steve? So we crisscross the wire. And at some later stage, if we find that the nebari is better there, we might take the nebari a bit lower. But for now, we leave those top roots. This is a mica pot, by the way. I'm a great believer of mica pots. I'm not getting a commission from the company, but they are unbreakable, and for large pots, the ceramic pots are not just expensive, but they're very easy to break, because these heavy trees, when you lift it, if you suddenly hit it against something, they can chip and break. So increasingly I've been using these large mica pots, and from a distance you couldn't really tell whether it's ceramic or mica. So if I get Steve to just fill the pot on the other side, okay, fill some soil in front. Okay, you can come around this side and go back to that side. Quite a large tree, as you can see. It's every bit 4 foot tall, and although the branches are springing up a little bit, I'm going to just wire them a little bit down. So I will just do very minor wiring, and I will show you the tree again. I know people who live in Louisiana, in the United States, they have these beautiful swamp cypress, which is very similar, but I think the dawn redwood has got prettier foliage, much nicer foliage, but it's the same character tree. And most of them, because they grow straight and tall, which is the natural habit of the tree, they look very nice like this. So first of all, I will do a little bit of wiring, and then it will be finished. So let me recap. We've now put this tree in this lovely large mica pot. That mica pot must be every bit 60 centimeter in length. It's a huge pot, and of course it suits this huge tree. Now, for the long term, there are a few things I will be doing to this tree. Some of the things I'll be doing immediately. That little bit of dead root on the right hand side, that is doing nothing. This one here, I'm going to cut that off. Some of these can also be cut off. That's doing nothing. That is live, so I'll leave that. But while we're talking about root, this thick root here, eventually I should cut it off. But because I cut quite a bit of root off, when I say cut quite a bit of root off, that's the root I cut, mainly the tap roots. So it's not a great deal. It should survive. I will eventually take it off, but maybe next year I will take this root off because it's rather ugly. The lower roots may make it look more convincing. The Nebari would be more convincing. So I will leave that for now. Those two thick branches there are okay. This branch there is also okay. But if we go higher up the trunk, you'll see that there is one thick branch there and the rest of the branches are thin. And because that's going to be the odd branch out, I think there's a thick branch at the back that I'm not too worried about. I think I could safely take this thick one out and leave the thin ones to develop. So I'm going to cut that off and then train the thinner ones. So that is the plan of action. And the top I'm going to smarten up. So meanwhile I will just cut that off and water the tree, and I will take it to the workbench while I do some finer wiring. So that's as far as we've got. So today is another day. I was going to wear my Hawaiian shirt, but it's been raining and it's a bit damp and cold, so I won't wear that Hawaiian shirt because I'm really feeling cold. Now to finish off this dawn redwood that we started potting up on Sunday, all I need to do is sort the branches out and the pads. Now straight away let me explain to you what I'm going to do. I'm basically going to arrange the pads, so that's an easy thing. So let me begin by, if you come here you will see the pad. This is coming out straight. This is quite a nice pad, and this I can arrange this way. So we're going to get like 3 branches. So, and the dawn redwoods are so prolific. All these shoots, literally every couple of weeks you get these new shoots coming out from the old wood. So you don't have to worry about them not producing branches. They are very prolific. So if you're patient, you will get the branches in virtually no time. So I'm just going to wire these gently. The wire does mark because it's a fast growing tree, but I'll keep an eye on it. But of course, because it's fast growing, it also sets in position very rapidly. So these wires probably don't need to be on for more than about a year. And the branches are flexible. I can do a bit of zigzag. So this shoot has been produced in the last 2 weeks, believe it or not. So arrange the pad so that it's nice fishbone. I can zigzag it. And then I can almost cut with impunity because they are so prolific. So that pad is organized. Now this one I need to pull down a little bit. This is quite thick, but I'm not worried about it because the lower branches being thick is fine. So let me wire this. So 2 branch, let me link it to this one. And then take it out onto this. It's telling you how prolific these branches are. You look at this pad here. See, this branch has had another secondary one coming out that way. So I don't want it kicking back on itself. So I get rid of this one. And look at all that. There's so many new branches coming from there. I don't want this. I don't want these. I've got to keep a close eye on it. So I need to control them. Now this pad, I need to just make a nice herringbone. And then let's take this down a bit. This I can take more down. that's easy to achieve. That's very easy to achieve. Now, when it comes to this, okay, there's still some thick branches here. They are back branches, so I will think about it. But this being the front, this is an ugly branch. All the other branches are thin, so this is out of scale, out of proportion. So I think I will have to get rid of this one. So I don't know whether the secateurs will cut this or not, but it's such soft wood. I think I can easily cut it with secateurs. Look at it. It's only like 3 years old, that thick. So I hope that will die back, and then I can arrange these. So these will be the new branches. I can gradually nibble away and reduce the thickness of the old branch. There's a bit of a stub of the old branch there. I don't want that. The wood is so soft. When you think of the Chinese elm being hard wood, this is like butter compared to that. If anyone has ever cut Chinese elm, old branches, you realize how thick it is. Okay, now these branches are not very thick, so let me see. I can use 3mm wire. I'll try and tell you what wire I'm using, but I hope it doesn't mislead you, because as I said, the thickness of the wire doesn't depend on the thickness of the branch you're wiring. It depends on the species, and it depends also on the age of the particular branch. So the species like this is so soft and very bendable, you don't need very thick wire. Okay, let's take it to this one. They have these gangly shoots that grow. Look at this one growing vertical. I don't want it growing vertical. I want it growing horizontal. So I got rid of that. So this is still the front. Got lots of branches here. In fact, too many. And when there are too many, I've got to be careful about inverse taper, so taking them out is really doing it a good turn. Okay, let's do those two. So different from wiring juniper or pine branches. When you think that this long branch is only 2 years old, it was produced last year. So different species behave certainly very differently. That's not staying down. I may have to put another coil of wire on that one. I think I've got enough branches, so I get rid of this. I don't want too many. I've got to think what to do with this one. It's very, very thick. I may just keep it for a year and see if new shoots come from there. And if they come, I will then eventually get rid of it. I won't get rid of it straight away. So I'm now going to use 4mm wire on 2 branches there. I'm not self-videoing at the moment. Jack is videoing for me, so you can see more detail hopefully. I'm aware that when you self-video you can't get close and show some of the detail, but as I said, sometimes I rather be able to do a video by self-videoing than not video at all. I'm just going to find a thick piece of gold wire. So again, this is a big tree. I love big trees, so I know people criticize me for that, but this is what I love and this is what I do. So as I said, hopefully this wire won't be on this tree for more than a year. The rest I'm also going to wire. I'm not going to show you everything because it may take up too much time. I'm going to wire those like that, so when I get to it, I don't know, I might as well do it just to show that there's no sleight of hand. So swamp cypress and dawn redwood are probably the two easiest species to train and wire because they are so prolific in producing new branches, new shoots. I'll need a stool pretty soon. I can hardly reach the top. Try many there. I've often thought to myself that I'm probably the only person who's making these very large, big bonsai outside of China. In China, large bonsai is commonplace, but in Europe, where they are more inclined to follow the Japanese style, the large bonsai are frowned upon. But I said to myself, why not? There's no reason why you can't make them large. And as I say, if the mother of bonsai, which is China, have been making large bonsai for thousands of years, there's no reason why I shouldn't do the same. And what is more important, of course, because I'm a commercial nursery, I'm fortunate to have set the trend for making these large bonsai, and my customers, I have a lot of customers who have very, very large gardens. I think I've mentioned this before. And they have large gardens, and therefore they can afford the space to house the large bonsai. So many of my large bonsai like these get snapped up. In fact, they prefer the large ones to the small ones. So I've certainly created a trend. I don't think anyone else would dare to do this, but I am what I am, and I'm a maverick, and people respect me for it, and I think I have created a new trend and a new taste for large bonsai. So I don't want to be rude to others. One could say sucks to the people who don't like these big bonsai, because my customers certainly do. So let's continue finishing this. Now this tree, a number of people have seen me air it on the nursery over the years, and they wanted to buy it, seeing the potential of the tree. But now that I've worked on it, I'm sure there's going to be much more interest in this tree, and I dare say within the next year I wouldn't be surprised if it gets sold. There aren't many big dawn redwoods around. You find a lot of small ones like the ones I showed you earlier on in my other videos. But this is a large one. Now let's deal with the top. The top is always the interesting bit. Many people just like to leave the top like a feather sticking out of a cap, but that doesn't look complete. To make a crown, we always need to bring it down on itself. So let me see what I can create with that top bit. So for the top, I want to do a little anchor here. I'm going to wire the entire top. So that's how I do it. Even at the top I'm looking for 2 branches. 2-branch principle. You must be bored to tears listening to that. So let's take a view. I think that's a very respectable looking tree. So if you come from the front, Jack, have a look from this side. The taper is quite good, and I think I need to get rid of this ugly root. Let me put my glove on. This ugly root is doing nothing. And as I said, next year I'm going to cut this one off. I could take a risk and cut it now, but it may hurt the tree because it is supporting quite a few other small roots underneath. But next year this root is going to come off, and the redwoods, like the junipers, have this lovely bark. Let me try and brush it with the brush and see what color comes. It's almost like the cryptomeria trees. Yeah, it does look red. That's why it's called redwood, isn't it? See the red color. Unlike the pine you want to keep the craggy bark, but with the redwoods and junipers, we can clean it up and get the red color. So that's what the redwoods look like. There you are. So one redwood complete from the flower pot yesterday, and complete in its mica pot now. And I will show it to you in another 6 months or in the autumn. It will have grown much more, and there you go.